Welcome to Perfect Educators Institute of AI. We are striving ardently to equip the future generation with modern learning. Enjoy the sublime learning with us.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling a really important area, how digital access, artificial intelligence, and education are, intersecting, specifically in Pakistan. You're looking for knowledge that gets straight to the point, but still gives you the full picture, right? So our goal today is to give you a clear, engaging understanding of this complex situation without, drowning you in details.
That's right. And to do this, we've gathered some key sources. We'll be looking at a recent report from dawn.com on internet access across Pakistan.
Okay.
Then there's info on an AI education course for teachers from Coursera and insights from a Business Recorder opinion piece on why digital literacy really matters.
Right. Crucial.
Yeah. And we'll also explore an AI literacy framework from the University of Adelaide.
All right.
A big overview of digital trends from Data Reportal.
Got it.
A study comparing AI and education in China, India, and Pakistan. A paper on how AI might help achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And finally, some research on integrating AI into science curriculums. Quite a mix.
Okay, quite a lot to unpack there. Let's start maybe with the foundation. The digital divide in Pakistan, that dawn.com report from April 2024 really sets the scene. What struck you as most significant?
Well, I think the key takeaway, the really stark fact, is that as of April 2024, over half of Pakistan's population still doesn't have internet access.
Over half. Wow.
Yeah. And this isn't just about, missing out on streaming services or shopping. The first ever Digital Development Index report, the DDI, it showed a really strong link between digital progress in a region and its overall human development.
So better digital access means better health, better education outcomes.
Essentially, yeah. Areas with better digital transformation tend to see better outcomes across the board. It's becoming fundamental.
That really underscores it. And the report, it also highlighted some pretty significant inequalities in who actually has access, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The DDI report showed a dramatic wealth disparity. Digital development in the wealthiest 20% is, get this, 15 times higher than in the poorest 20%.
15 times.
15. I mean, that's an enormous gap. It creates this massive barrier, stopping a huge chunk of the population from getting the educational, the economic opportunities the internet offers.
So it's heavily concentrated in the cities, I imagine.
You guessed it. Places like Islamabad, Karachi, Lahore, they're way ahead. It just reflects, the existing economic and infrastructure advantages there, leaving rural areas further behind.
And it's not just about wealth, right? The report also touched on the gender aspect of access, which sounded quite concerning.
Yeah, that was striking. It really brings up questions about personal agency. The DDI report found that an overwhelming 83.5% of women said their spouse or parents basically control whether they can even own a phone.
83%. Just to own a phone.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of restriction on such a basic tool for access creates this huge gender digital divide. It just limits women's ability to connect, to learn, to participate.
So, okay, within Pakistan, the report identified specific areas leading the charge. Which ones were those again?
Right. So the report listed districts with very high and high digital development. Islamabad was very high.
Okay.
And then Karachi, Lahore, Rawalpindi, Peshawar, Haripur, and Abbottabad were in the high category. But that concentration really just highlights how unevenly everything infrastructure access is spread.
And when we look at the bigger development picture, Pakistan's lower rankings, like in the Human Development Index, the Gender Inequality Index, how does the digital divide connect there?
Well, it seems very likely they're connected or at least worsened by these digital divides. Pakistan's HDI rank, 164 out of 193, and the GII rank, 135 out of 166.
Not great numbers.
No. And, limited access to information, to education resources online, to economic opportunities, it directly impacts human development, and it definitely perpetuates those gender inequalities.
It's good to hear, though, that the government seems to recognize this. They see digital access as fundamental now.
Seems so. The planning minister, Ahsan Iqbal, apparently emphasized the government's commitment to bridging the divide. He acknowledged it's an essential requirement today. That recognition, at a high level, it's a vital first step.
Right. Acknowledging the problem.
Exactly.
And it sounds like Pakistan isn't alone with these challenges in the wider region.
No, not at all. Kani Vignaraja from UNDP highlighted that, over 60% in the Asia-Pacific are online, but women and other marginalized groups are significantly underrepresented. So Pakistan's situation, while specific, fits into a broader regional pattern.
Interesting point in the report, too, about Pakistan's role in the growing global middle class. How could digital transformation play into that?
Yeah, that was interesting. Exxon is projected to be the sixth largest contributor to global middle-class growth, something like 25 million people joining between 2022 and 2030.
Wow.
So targeted digital transformation efforts could theoretically really boost productivity and economic development by empowering this, expanding group with new skills, new opportunities.
But it always seems to come back to those core issues, infrastructure and affordability being the big roadblocks.
Absolutely. The report really hammered at home. Lack of adequate infrastructure, the cost. Those are the main reasons over half the population is still offline. Nearly half the districts have low DDI rankings. It just underscores the urgent need to tackle those fundamentals.
Now, you mentioned another source, Data Reportal, with slightly different numbers from January 2024. How do those fit?
Right. This just shows how fast things can change or how different snapshots look. Data Reportal in Jan 24 showed 45.7% internet penetration. So 111 million users.
Okay, still less than half, but maybe moving.
Well, yeah, still over half, 54.3% were offline then. But it also showed a big jump, 24 million new users between 2023 and 2024. That's like 27% growth.
That is significant growth.
It is. So it indicates a dynamic situation, but those underlying access and affordability issues from the DDI report, they likely still affect the millions who remain unconnected.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Digital literacy. That opinion piece in Business Recorder really pushed its importance, especially considering Pakistan's overall literacy rates.
Yes. Syed Waqas Ali Kazmi, the author, makes a really strong case. He basically argues that in today's world, you can't really improve overall literacy significantly without focusing on digital literacy too.
Because they're intertwined now.
Exactly. Traditional literacy, reading and writing, obviously crucial. But digital literacy, it's becoming just as vital for actually participating in modern society.
And the current literacy stats in Pakistan, they paint a concerning picture, especially the gender gap.
They do. The 2020-21 survey put the national rate at 62.8%. But look at the gender breakdown. 73.4% for males, only 51.9% for females.
That's a huge difference.
It really is. It just underscores the need for targeted efforts, especially for women's literacy.
It's interesting how UNESCO's definition of literacy itself has evolved to include digital skills. It's not just ABCs anymore.
It's a fundamental shift, yeah. UNESCO now sees literacy as way more than just reading, writing, basic math. It includes being able to, understand, interpret, create, communicate in this digital information-heavy world we live in. Digital literacy is now seen as essential.
So how does the UNESCO Institute for Statistics define digital literacy specifically?
They define it as the ability to use digital tech to access, manage, understand, integrate, communicate, evaluate, and create information safely and appropriately. So it covers a lot: basic computer use, understanding online info, communicating online effectively.
Right. So Pakistan seems to be facing this kind of double challenge then. Lower overall literacy and weaker digital awareness.
That's precisely it. Pakistan isn't just lagging in overall literacy compared to many places. There's also this significant gap in digital awareness, the ability to actually use these technologies effectively across the population.
And the piece mentioned the huge number of kids not in school. That must connect here too.
Oh, definitely. The scale of out-of-school children is, frankly, a crisis. UNICEF said over 26 million. Another report highlighted 18.8 million just in rural areas. Over half of 5 to 9-year-olds never even went to school.
That's staggering.
It is. It led the government to declare a national education emergency.
But then there's data from the Telecom Authority, the PTA, suggesting there's actually quite a big potential reach through digital means.
Yeah, that's the flip side, the potential. As of September 2023, the PTA reported 130 million broadband users, 192 million telecom users overall. That's a 54.5% penetration rate.
So the infrastructure, or at least the connectivity, reaches a lot of people already.
Exactly. It indicates this massive potential audience you could reach with digital learning platforms, mobile apps, interactive tools. It suggests a real opportunity there if it can be harnessed.
And the opinion piece stressed that making that happen needs collaboration, right? Public-private partnerships.
Absolutely. The author really emphasizes that you need public and private sectors investing together in the infrastructure, yes, but also in training educators properly, and crucially, ensuring equitable access to devices and the internet. It needs a concerted effort.
Okay, let's move into AI in education now. That comparative study you mentioned, looking at China, India, and Pakistan, that gives us a sense of the global trends.
Right. And what's really interesting there is seeing this global consensus emerging that AI is starting to reshape education. The study points to increasing use for like personalized learning, automated grading, developing smarter content.
And it highlighted China and India as being particularly active.
That's correct. They're presented as really leading the charge, putting in significant investment, and seeing real progress in integrating AI into how they teach and learn.
Can you give us a clearer idea, based on the study, of how AI is actually being used to improve things?
Sure. The study explains it's being used in a few key ways. One is adaptive learning systems, tailoring material to individual student needs.
So like a personal tutor.
Kind of, yeah. Then there's providing real-time feedback to keep students engaged. Also, automating administrative tasks for teachers, freeing up their time.
That must be huge for teachers.
You'd think so. And finally, facilitating remote learning, expanding access for people far away.
The study also briefly mentions some theoretical stuff. Veblen's theory, technological determinism.
Yeah.
How do they fit in?
Yeah, connecting to broader ideas. Basically, these theories suggest that tech advancements, like AI, are major drivers of social change. New tech challenges, old systems, old norms, and society eventually adapts. But, it's not always a smooth process. There can be adjustment periods.
It's useful to see how other countries are tackling this too. The study mentioned the UAE, US, UK, Canada. What are the trends there?
Right, different focuses globally. The UAE, for instance, has a national AI strategy, serious funding, aiming to diversify their economy. The US is still, a major hub for AI research and talent.
Okay.
The UK and Canada are also big on research, but they're putting an increasing focus on the ethical side of AI as well.
And the potential economic impact. That Accenture report projecting a big profit increase in education.
Yeah, that was pretty eye-opening. An 84% increase in profit in the education industry by 2035, purely from AI integration. That really shows the huge economic incentives driving AI adoption here.
The study also gives some concrete examples of AI benefits, like those personalized learning apps, tools for students with special needs.
Exactly. Practical applications like Age of Learning, adaptive for personalized paths, tools like Voice Seat, helping students with speech difficulties. Plus, you've got big foundations like Chan Zuckerberg, Bill and Melinda Gates, investing in AI as a promising educational tool.
Now, China's approach sounded particularly, massive, almost like a giant experiment.
It really is striking, just the sheer scale. They have incredibly high AI adoption in the workplace, like 75%, and huge government backing for using it in education. Millions of students using AI tutors like Squirrels, platforms like 17 Zuaye, even in regular classrooms. It's arguably the world's biggest AI and education experiment.
And the study gave some glimpses into the classroom. AI headsets for English, monitoring math practice.
Yeah, interesting examples. Students using headsets for AI-powered English tutoring, AI systems monitoring math progress, identifying difficulties in real time, and they're quite advanced in developing adaptive learning systems, trying to mimic that one-on-one tutoring benefit with tech.
And India's efforts also seem to be gaining momentum. Government initiatives like AI for All.
Indeed. India's got a rapidly growing online education market, and the government's actively promoting AI use with things like AI for All, aiming for social and equitable progress through tech.
Right.
And we're seeing results. AI systems boosting student engagement. Practical stuff like using Amazon Echo Dots for reading skills. Intel setting up AI labs.
And that example from Andhra Pradesh, using AI to predict school dropouts, that sounded really impactful.
That's a really compelling use case, yeah. Using Microsoft's machine learning to analyze data and predict which students are at high risk of dropping out.
So they can intervene early.
Exactly. Identify the key factors, maybe lack of furniture, poor results, whatever, and then target interventions to keep kids in school. Using AI for social good, basically.
Okay, turning back to Pakistan now. The study mentions some initial steps, LUMS RoboTutor, the Punjab government's Talimgar.
Yeah, Pakistan is definitely in the earlier stages compared to China or India, but it is exploring the potential. Initiatives like RoboTutor and Zayal Learning Labs at LUMS, plus the Talimgar program during COVID, they show a growing interest in how AI can enhance learning.
And it's good news that Pakistan has drafted a national AI policy.
Right.
What are its main aims?
Right. The draft policy has 4 main pillars, basically. Growing the AI market, increasing awareness and readiness, creating a supportive, trustworthy environment for AI, and promoting transformation through AI. Plus, the government has allocated some budget for AI promotion, showing some commitment.
But the study stressed the need for ethics, collaboration.
Absolutely critical. The study highlights the need for careful ethical development, strong public-private partnerships, maybe even AI-focused universities, And definitely international collaboration to learn from others and navigate the challenges effectively in the Pakistani context.
Okay, let's dive into this idea of AI literacy. That framework from the University of Adelaide sounds like a useful way to structure our thinking.
It really is useful because it goes beyond just the techie stuff. It outlines the broader abilities people need to engage with AI meaningfully, responsibly. It breaks it down into 4 key areas.
Right, let's walk through them. First is recognize and understand. What's that about?
Recognize and understand it's the foundation. Basically, getting a handle on what AI is, explaining basic terms, identifying different types of machine learning, generative AI, spotting AI applications versus other tech, and understanding how it's used in different sectors.
So like knowing the difference between old-style AI and machine learning, or how ChatGPT works, roughly.
Exactly. That kind of basic grounding falls under this dimension.
Okay, second area, use and apply. What skills are key here?
Use and apply is about the practical side. How do you actually interact with AI? So designing good prompts to get reliable outputs, using AI appropriately for the task, following policies, documenting your AI use like citing it in academic work, and reflecting on how AI impacts your learning.
So knowing how to ask AI good questions and when it's the right tool.
Precisely. And knowing the conventions around it.
Makes sense. Third area, evaluate and critique. This sounds crucial for not just blindly trusting AI.
It's absolutely essential. Evaluating critique is about critical thinking, assessing how AI output might sway decisions, comparing different AI models, recognizing when AI gets things wrong, those hallucinations, interpreting results carefully, checking the data for bias.
Ugh, bias is a big one.
Huge. Also, mitigating risks and forming reasoned arguments about AI implementation. Being able to spot bias or understand AI screw-ups is key here.
Okay. And the final area, reflect and respect. This brings in the ethics and society angle.
Exactly. Reflect and respect is about using AI ethically and responsibly. Understanding copyright issues with AI content, taking responsibility for your use, respecting privacy, thinking about the ethics of AI training data,
Right.
understanding transparency, autonomy, addressing bias again, and just thinking broadly about AI's societal impact and whether it's even necessary for certain things.
This framework really drives home that AI literacy isn't just for tech experts, it's for everyone. And that Coursera course for teachers seems to fit right in.
It does. The Coursera course aids to help educators understand AI's realities, compare it with human intelligence, spot applications in education, grapple with the ethical questions, fairness, transparency, privacy, and build their own critical thinking around AI for teaching.
And that other paper on putting AI into science curriculums also points to educators needing this understanding.
Yes, that paper asks, are current science curriculums actually equipping students with the technological literacy, the deep understanding, the knowledge creation skills they need in the age of AI? It really emphasizes the need to think about how we're teaching AI across subjects.
Okay, final topic then, AI and the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. That paper suggested AI has broad potential for positive impact.
Yeah, what's significant there is the analysis pulling from like 44 sources, showing AI's potential to tackle major global challenges: healthcare, education, as we discussed, environment, economic growth, gender equality.
Can you give a few specific examples from the paper?
Sure. Things like AI optimizing renewable energy grids, improving waste management efficiency, enabling earlier disease detection, providing personalized education, linking back again and supporting initiatives for gender equality. Lots of potential applications.
But of course, there are ethical concerns too, right? The paper acknowledged those.
Oh, absolutely. It didn't shy away from the ethical issues, algorithmic bias, data privacy risks, potential job displacement, things we've touched on. These need careful management.
So what were the paper's key recommendations for harnessing AI for sustainable development?
It argued for sensible AI governance, promoting research that blends AI and sustainability expertise, fostering those public-private partnerships again.
Yeah, it keeps coming up.
It does. Also, boosting public AI literacy, understanding what it is and isn't, and pushing for eco-friendly AI policies, the main message. If we're careful and ethical, AI can significantly contribute to a more inclusive, equitable, sustainable future.
Okay, so pulling it all together, our deep dive shows Pakistan facing this major digital divide, clearly impacting development, but there's recognition of digital literacy's importance, and the country starting to explore AI in education, learning from others, but needing to tackle its own unique issues. These AI literacy frameworks give us a guide for using AI responsibly, and ultimately AI does hold real promise for those bigger sustainable development goals.
Precisely. A complex picture, but with potential.
Definitely. And with that, here's something for you, our listeners, to consider. Given how fast AI is moving and where digital access currently stands in Pakistan, what are the most critical steps needed right now to make sure AI actually empowers people equitably in education and society? Instead of just making the gaps wider, what role do you see for individuals, for the government, for international collaboration in shaping that future? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.